Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. So today we're talking about something that no one probably really can identify with. It's overwhelm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe everybody can identify with it.
Not me. Not this guy.
No. Ben is always in charge, and kind of like Charles in charge, we have Ben in charge. Always knows what to do in every situation.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Ben
But
in charge
the rest of us,
of our wrongs and our rights.
yes. The rest of us aren't. We don't know.
Yeah, no. So everybody feels overwhelmed. I feel like everybody feels overwhelmed all of the time right now. Like, I feel like it's growing exponentially every year.
I think that's kind of the norm of how we walk around. I mean, I know I used to kid that it was my middle name. It was like, I mean, when I really looked closely at how I lived my life before I woke up, I mean, everything was overwhelmed. If I actually was capable of slowing down enough to look at my life and where I wanted it to be and what I might need to do to get there, it was instant overwhelm. And I just shut back down because it was just like, oh my God. It was like panic. It was like, oh my God, this is so messed up that for me to get there, it's just, I mean, I can't even toss it around inside my head for more than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't do it very often,
I mean, I completely understand. I currently, I feel overwhelmed all the time. This past month, especially, I was right before we were here. I was in a meeting with one of our mutual friends, Jason, and I was telling him about how crazy September has been, and I was like, September, the entire month was crazy, and then I realized that we're not even done with it.
Yeah, it's been this. I think there's a lot going on more than just for us. I think it's energetically. I tend to see themes with things working with clients. It's like at the gym. When I worked at the gym, personal training, we always used to know when it was full moon coming, because the social aspect of everybody would just really expand, and everybody be like, "What's going on tonight? What's going on tonight?" We'd be like, "What is it? A full moon?" Yep. Like you find patterns when you're in the same situation for long periods of time. And life coaching, I see patterns with people, and there's a lot going on right now. And I think that there was kind of some opening that went on at the beginning of the month, and it just made way for all this stuff to start, really going. And we have to be, it's like everything else, we have to be in control of our own happiness. Just because the floodgates have opened and there's a lot of stuff going on doesn't mean we have to do it all, So we have to be in control of our own pace and monitor that. And I think, as most people, as they work and walk on their spiritual path, it's really actually a good sign to see our progress. Because a lot of times what we do is we feel overwhelmed has a certain feeling. So if we feel overwhelmed, we think there's something wrong with us, but we don't slow down enough to look at, I used to get overwhelmed because I had to go pick up my car, from someone. I mean, that was now it's I can go be doing 14 different things and manage 13 of them really well, and the 14th pushes me towards overwhelm. It's that's huge progress, so I think that those of us that are on a spiritual path and growing and expanding, I didn't intend to come at it this way, but I think it is an important part to look at. Cut yourself a break, and when you it's the goal isn't to never experience overwhelm. It's to be able to function effectively without experiencing it. If we allow ourselves to just live unconsciously, and if there's 30 things in front of us, that means we have to try to do 30 things. That's not really living consciously or realistically. So of course we're going to be overwhelmed. But if we can take a step back and go, you know what, I can handle a lot more than I used to. I can navigate a lot more. I'm actually doing really, really well. I just need to realize that, nobody can do 30 things. So don't put that pressure on myself to attempt to, and really settle in at, where I feel comfortable. And if I want to stretch myself, I might be able to add one or two things, as long as I know it's not throwing off my balance. And so it's really actually a good way to see your own personal progress if we're looking at it properly.
What would you say is at the core of feeling overwhelmed? Is it fear or anxiety or?
Yes and yes. Yeah, really, anything uncomfortable is fear-based. So, yes, it's based in fear. What flavor fear? Yes, it's closely related to anxiety because it's about the future, not getting, everything done that we think we're supposed to, unrealistic expectations. We don't slow down, like I was kind of just saying. We don't slow down and look about what's realistic and how well we're doing. We just think if there's 30 things to do and we're not doing 30, then there's something wrong with us, and we just keep pushing and pushing. It's an example of unconscious living. So, I think if we pull back from the anxiety and from the overwhelm, and really give ourselves a realistic outlook. And of course, we can't go into overwhelm without talking about the kind of a main piece of it. So a main piece of it is just that if there's something we're not doing, like a project we're overwhelmed by, it's too big, so we have to chop it down into smaller pieces. And sometimes that's not something that we recognize right off the bat, because usually we're busy judging ourselves that we should be able to do whatever we're not doing. So instead of judging ourselves, I should be able to do it, instead of that, just realize I'm not doing it. So if I'm not doing it, then it's too big. And sometimes that's, that can be a project. Like, right now I'm working on my book. So it's like, well, I don't have the title and the image and what the book's going to look like all figured out. Well, if I try figuring that all out in one shot, I'm going to be overwhelmed. But if I go, okay, well, I could work on a title. That's a few words, and then maybe from there I might be able to work on the subtitle, or maybe the subtitle first and then the title. Or maybe I could spend some time working on the image that I would like, looking at other books, seeing if I wanted it. Like, it's picking one thing. It's not saying, I should be able to do the cover of my own book. Well, no, it's if I'm having trouble with that, then I have to chop it up into smaller pieces.
Right.
Well, let's focus on the title. Okay. How's that going?
That reminds me of when we were going through the manuscript for the book, and I was reading it, and I went and you were still like adding and subtracting content, and I was like, this is overwhelming for me to even look at, never mind you writing. So I took every single piece of it, every chapter, every part of the book, and I separated them into separate documents. And what I gave you was this massive, like 40 list of 40 documents. But I was like, just focus on one little thing at a time, Right. Like, just look at this part of the book and focus on that. And it's so crazy because we think in the macro all the time when we're overwhelmed. We try to do everything,
Yeah.
like almost every day I make a gigantic to-do list, and then I get upset when I'm not like racking them off. Like, and I put simple things on the to-do list, like that do not need to be there, just so that I can like get the momentum rolling of knocking things off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it reminds me of a quote from a very, very, very smart man.
Zach, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say, who's that, Glenn Ambrose?
Well, I'm going to say
was
that
like, that's just way too far out there.
it is. Unfortunately, it is a quote from Glenn Ambrose.
Oh, gee.
Which is,
I thought that would be the funniest thing ever to say, and then now all of a sudden you do it.
Well, because I was like, I saw a quote about this like a week ago, and it's we can never accomplish everything. We're not supposed to. Life is an ongoing process.
Right. Yeah, and it's that's so the important thing is we most of us do have to-do lists, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with a to-do list. It's just there's something wrong with thinking that we're supposed to complete it. It's it's an ongoing list. It's a rolling list, and I mean that's how it needs to be viewed. It's and I mean I use my Google Calendar for everything. So and I've tried different things, and I haven't quite found another system that works for me as well as that does. And it doesn't work perfectly because of the rolling list mentality. I'm constantly moving things, but for now it works the best. And I worked on that many years ago. I was like, because I was the same way. I never completed everything, and it drove me crazy. And I was like, I have to shift my perspective on that. The goal is never to complete everything that I have on one day's list, ever. Like ever. If that actually happens, I'm shocked, and I probably don't even realize it. I could go back and I'd be like, oh my God, I think I completed everything that day, but maybe not because I keep moving things. But yeah, I just don't have that mental concept that I'm supposed to finish everything. It's just, it's unrealistic. There's always things for us to do. So, really being realistic about what we expect of ourselves is important. Again, it's slowing down, living consciously, living realistically. And if something's too big, chop it down into smaller pieces and do one thing at a time, non-judgmentally. We can't we're constantly judging ourselves for stuff 90 miles an hour that we didn't get done, and we wonder why we're overwhelmed. That's why.
Yeah. So systems, like you just talked about systems. Is it like find the right system for you, or?
Yeah. I think find the right system for you. Like pinpoint where your thinking is off and change your thinking. So if you keep telling yourself, if you keep feeling overwhelmed because you're not getting things done or enough done, you have to step back from that and go, is that realistic? What? Because I mean, most of us we don't have a problem in this society with busyness. I mean, we're all way too busy. We all put way too much pressure on ourselves. So everybody's leaning too far in one direction. And we need to be balanced more. If anything, we need more downtime. I mean, nobody's laying on their deathbed and going, thank God I got the laundry done exactly on the day I was supposed to every single time my entire life. Oh, yes. They're not doing that, but they can be sitting there going, you know what? I didn't really enjoy my life that much. I put too much pressure on myself to complete things, little day-to-day things that really weren't even that important. So if we make happiness and living a joyful life a priority, we start living a joyful life. Make that as much of a priority as the grocery shopping. I'm not saying that we don't have to go grocery shopping. I understand we have to feed our families, but the amount of pressure that's put on it is absurd. Figure it out. Like, one thing that worked for me most of the time is I stopped doing a big grocery run. I started picking up small things, small amounts on squeezing in a half an hour, maybe once or twice a week on my way by, just grabbing a few things, as opposed to setting an hour and a half or 2 hours to go do one trip, and that was helpful for a while. Then later on, it got easier to do one big trip, and it's being flexible, and really going with the flow of your life and finding what works for you realistically and consciously.
So you covered a lot of like day-to-day stuff, like laundry and grocery shopping and the stuff that we all everybody has in common. Everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs to have clean clothes. Like, what about when you're taking a lot on yourself work-wise? Like you feel like you feel overwhelmed because, like you said, like you're trying to do the book right now on top of everything else. You're trying to finish the book, and you're trying to finish it in a timely manner so that it can go out in a timely manner, and you have sort of deadlines on yourself and all of this stuff, and you're kicking that work-life balance out of whack. And so like when you're overwhelmed with work, how do you handle that?
It's maintaining my inner space. That's the priority. It's whenever I'm doing that, it works well. When I'm not doing that, it doesn't work well. So if my inner peace is my priority, then I manage everything else. When I put everything else as my priority and I allow my inner peace to suffer, everything gets out of whack. So it's priorities. It's putting my inner space first, my peacefulness, my happiness first, and then doing as much as I can within that energy. And it's when I'm doing that, it's really not that hard. It's like I was talking with somebody the other day, and I was like, I have I fell into a space, and of my own doing, of course, over the last month, that's mind-boggling, the amount of stuff that I took on. And it's in a way, it's foolish, of course, and probably I probably would have leaned away from this, but the timing I tend to go with timing, and the timing, all this stuff fell into my lap perfectly. And generally I do things when that happens, when sun falls in my lap, like effortlessly, and the time is right, I just do it. So like I had to have some dental work done, which coincided with me getting dental insurance, which coincided with me getting vision insurance, which coincided with me getting my contacts checked and an eye exam, which coincided with me getting pictures taken for my book, which coincided with all the aspects of my book, which is the title, the introduction, learning how to write an introduction, the content of the book, all the different aspects, the bio for the book, the description for the book, the jacket, like all this stuff is going on at once, all in line with my car getting hit and getting that fixed, and some stuff going on with my son, and this whole other big project of letters that I'm sending out for a particular purpose. And it was like, this stuff is all stuff that's never going on, aside from the podcast and the business and my clients and the day-to-day stuff. I mean, the amount of stuff I have going on is absolutely absurd. But if I'm in good space, I'm fine with it. Like I'm talking about it right now, and I'm completely calm. Like I can feel it inside. There's zero overwhelmment. I feel peaceful and happy and joyful about it all because I'm navigating it. Now, have I been feeling like exactly like I am right now this entire month? No, I have not. There have been times of overwhelm. There has been times where I've gotten knocked off and going, holy crap, man, and this stuff, took me over, and I needed to pull back and go, how I'm off center. Reprioritize, get my feet back on the ground, and then all of a sudden everything's like manageable. Not only is it manageable, but I can list it like I just did without feeling overwhelmed. Before, like I don't know, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, if I would have listed 3 of the things that I just listed, I would have been filled with anxiety because I wasn't centered, So but it's just recognizing it and going, no, I refuse to live that way. And that's such a big thing in this conversation, as well as a lot of conversations. We have to prioritize the life that we want to live. And make that number one priority. If we make it the number one priority, that I need to be peaceful, happy, and joyful first. And then whatever doesn't get done, somehow I'll make it. This is one of the blessings of living as a dysfunctional meathead for 20 years. I can look at myself now and go, Glenn, if you are completely overwhelmed, if you shut down, if you do nothing for like 3 months, somehow you're still going to make it. I mean, you lived like that for 20 years and you somehow made it. So like you can somehow survive. Somehow I will be on the other side of this looking back, even if I completely shut down and do nothing. Somehow I'll be on the other side of it looking back at it going, woof, that was a roller coaster ride. I can't believe I made it through that, and of course I try not to go to that point, but the point is everything works out. It works out somehow. It always does. And we don't have to put all this pressure on ourselves to push through.
Yeah. And it was an interesting month for sure. With all of that stuff going on, for you and with you. And that was a great illustration of the work. And like, when things come up in your life that when especially when things come up that you chose to do knowing that you're going to go into a little bit of a state of overwhelm because you didn't expect B to happen, and then B also would bring you in that state. So now you've completely elevated it to a higher level than you were planning on. That can really mess with your head.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does. It can play with you, and it can screw things around. And I think that the biggest thing we have to do is get the pressure off. Then we can look at things realistically, because as long as we're in that state of overwhelm looking at things, we tend to be unconscious, we tend to be a little manic, we tend to not look at things realistically. Like if I'm in that manic state, I understand that people listening, when you're in that space, what I'm saying doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense, because when I'm in that space and I go, well, Glenn, just, don't go grocery shopping today. Don't do the laundry. My brain wants to go, what are you, crazy? You can't stop doing that. You're not going to eat. Your kid's not going to eat. You have to eat. You have to get groceries. You have to do laundry. You're going to walk around naked. You can't walk around naked. You'll get arrested. You can't, that's what my brain wants to do if it's all wound up in that manic state. That's why slowing down, centering, getting the pressure off and going, you know what? Whatever. What if the book doesn't get done this year? What if it gets done 2 years from now? What if, what if I just don't do any of this stuff? Somehow I'll make it through. It's going to be okay. It'll all work out. I'll be on the other side of this all at some point. Do I want to not do my book? Of course not. But if that's necessary for my peace and happiness, that's the key, is really prioritizing your peace and happiness. That has to be the number one priority. And then once that's your priority, and say, no, I'm not willing to do anything. I don't care if my entire world falls apart in the name of peace and happiness. I'm going to be peaceful and happy first, and then I'll do the rest. And once we can get there, all of a sudden we start seeing that being in good space and loving ourselves and being peaceful and happy and making that a priority really energizes us and makes us more capable of doing more. If I'm in bad space, I'm not capable of doing that much, because that overwhelm creeps in. I tend to shut down or make things more difficult. I don't function well in that space. But if I'm peaceful and happy, I can roll from one thing to another effortlessly, without it bothering me, without being overtaken by that overwhelm. So I become more functional.
What about when you're not in control at all of a situation, like an illness or like if the thing that's making you feel overwhelmed is an illness or a situation with a family member's illness or medical condition where you have to take, like something where you have to either deeply take care of yourself in a way that throws your entire life into chaos, or take care of someone else?
It's the same thing, basically. I mean, you have to take care of yourself. And see, this is what we think. Our brain thinks it's one or the other. Well, I'm going to take care of myself, or I'm going to take care of them. And that's not what it is. That's what I'm saying. It's like when we take care of ourselves, it makes us higher functioning so we can take care of other people. But if we don't take care of ourselves, like, it's amazing what you can do just to go, you know what? I'm not living like this anymore. I'm taking a half an hour in the morning to really center myself, because I love myself, and my happiness and my peace has to come first so I can function. I'm taking a half an hour to do that. And then I'm setting a reminder on my phone midday. And I'm going to take a minimum of 5 minutes to do it again. And then I'm setting my reminder at night when I go to bed, and I'm going to do it for a minimum of 5 or 10 minutes again. I'm taking consistent time throughout my day to just stop for a moment and recenter and really connect with myself, connect with my source, connect with my own peace and happiness. And if we just do that, then all of a sudden, so, what I just said is, like, let's say 30 minutes and then 10 minutes in the middle of the day and then 10 minutes at night. So that's less than an hour, So I'm saying, take 40 minutes out of your life, or 50 minutes out of your life. Take 1 hour out of 24. So you have 23 to do whatever you need to do, and it's going to make a huge difference. But what we do is we don't even give ourselves 30 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then we wonder why we're overwhelmed. It's like, if you expect to be happy, peaceful, and high functioning, you have to do something. You have to put some sort of energy towards achieving that. We expect ourselves to be high functioning without putting any energy towards becoming high functioning.
I think it's Tony Robbins says, if you don't have 10 minutes, you don't have a life. Like,
probably. Yeah. And there's another quote that's like, if you don't have a half an hour to meditate, then meditate for an hour.
Yeah.
It's the same mentality. It's like the levels, it makes you so much more higher functioning than not doing it. And that's, plus it's an enjoyable ride. I can literally sit here in the middle of everything that I just said. And by the way, there's several things one, that I didn't mention, and two, several of the things that I glossed over that are way more in depth than I'm going to go into on this podcast. So, and I can sit in the midst of all that, fine. Or I can sit in the midst of that, not fine and not capable, like I was a couple of weeks ago. So it's, but it's my choice. When I recognize that I'm out of whack, I have to hit the brakes and make my happiness and my peace my priority. And then all of a sudden everything gets manageable.
Awesome. And that's a great place to stop for this episode. Wow. I loved it. I loved this episode.
Good. Then great. We'll share it with others then.
Good. I hope so. And, as for everything, you can find it all on glennambrose.com, blogs, vlogs, all the podcasts, everything.
Video versions
on Patreon, patreon.com.
Golf tips.
Yep.
No, not golf tips.
You can. We'll put up golf tips. I have a golf.
I would need to learn how to golf.
Me too.
Better if I was going to do that.
No golf tips.
No.
Golf tees sometimes on the video versions.
True.
Sometimes
I do that.
Golf tees. Oh, we're idiots. So yeah, check out glennambrose.com for all of that stuff. And of course, Glenn is available for life coaching no matter where you are in the world. And 5 questions with Glenn. If you sign up for the emails every week that there is not a Life Lessons in Laughter, you get a brand new video show where Glenn answers your questions. And if you have questions for Glenn, email them, glenn@glennambrose.com.
Send them in. Yeah, we did that last week and it was awesome. So yeah, send them in.
So we'd love to have them for that. And sometimes, a lot of times actually, people ask a question and then we do an entire podcast on them because there's just so much to uncover.
Right.
So thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Ben. All right, all. Thanks for listening, and we will talk with you soon.
Glenn is available for life coaching sessions. To book an appointment or for more information, go to glennambrose.com, follow him on Facebook and Twitter, or click the link in the description of this episode.